Hi, it's Erin McGuire, owner of Pure Light Wellness. Today I wanted to give you a video on trauma. A lot of us have experienced trauma as children, some of us have experienced trauma as an adult, and a lot of us don't even realize how that is playing out for us in our day-to-day life and how it's still programmed in our system, in our cells, and we're still living out of a place of trauma sometimes. So this has come up for me recently. I grew up with an alcoholic mother. Some of you may know that about me. And she was functioning alcoholic, but just would have a lot of anger and negativity. And it was just me and her. I didn't have any brothers and sisters. Dad wasn't around. And so I had a lot of, I guess self-defense mechanisms or defense mechanisms that I created because I grew up in kind of a chaotic environment. And those things still affect me today, even after all the work that I've done. So the way that I see it come up now is in my relationship. Certain things come up between us, different issues. For instance, if he goes out and has a drink, there's been times where I get really triggered by that because we live together, and so he's just, maybe having a couple beers after work, but in my mind, I'm instantly brought back to being a child, and it feels really unsafe, and I feel like I didn't even realize this was happening still until we talked about it, and then I feel a little bit out of control and like, what's he gonna do? Is something bad gonna happen? Because this was a program that happened to me. And so I really unconsciously saw alcohol as a really bad thing and the people around me drinking as a really bad thing. Now, obviously he doesn't do that all the time, but it's gonna create a problem in our relationship if I'm constantly being triggered if he has a drink or two. So this was a big one for me. And I wanted to share it because, after doing years of work, I didn't even realize that this was still programmed in my cells, that this was still going on. And so there's ways that you can release this shock and trauma through the energy work that I do. And so when this got brought to light, I went in and did some clearing around it because I don't want to live my life out of these old triggers. And that was the other thing too. My partner was like, why can't you just let that go? You need to just let that stuff go. And what I explained to him is that, when you grow up in a traumatic environment and there's chaos around you, it's within you. It's programmed within your cells. Like, that stuff doesn't just go away when you snap your fingers. You clear the energy around it, what we in Theta Healing call shock and trauma. In the energy work that I do, it's pain, fear, shame, guilt, resentment, regret, humiliation. You can clear all of that with people, with situations, and that's what I do for my clients. Clear shock and trauma, so that that's no longer a part of your being. But you still have to go through the biological aspect, that your body's still holding on to some of this stuff, and that sometimes it just takes a little something that just makes you kind of flip a switch, and all of a sudden you can be triggered and kind of go into this protective space and do things unconsciously. So even myself, after like literally 10, 12 years of doing this work, it still happens. I'm aware of it now, but it's still recently came up, and I was pretty unconscious to what was going on. So I just want to share this video for those of you out there who have experienced some trauma, to just understand yourself a little bit more, that we can become triggered no matter how much work you've done on yourself, no matter how much therapy you've had or healing that you've had done. This stuff is like an onion, right? So it's like we start to clear the big outer layers of that onion, but some of those inner layers still have to be expressed. And so to be able to explain that to your loved ones, because a lot of times what we're doing, we're reacting when we're triggered, right? We're yelling back, or we're getting upset for no reason, or we're like kind of doing the escape thing where we just don't talk to the person, or, go be silent somewhere, and then they're like, what's going on with her? Is she okay? So you want to be able to have a conversation with your loved ones that says, when these things come up, that, sometimes after the fact is good, because you can try to plan for it ahead of time, but until it actually happens, sometimes it's hard to plan. So just a conversation that says, when you did this, like, I understand that what you did, there's nothing wrong with what you did, and I want you to know that. But I need you to understand that where I'm coming from, just these little things can kind of trigger me and put me back into a state of being unsafe. And so I'm going to do my work and work on this, and work on my triggers and where that happens. But if you could approach me with some more sensitivity, with some compassion that I'm, experiencing this, it doesn't make my behavior okay. But just if you can approach it with a place of understanding, then I'll reciprocate in a better way. And that's kind of what I explained to my partner, is that, because a lot of times what was happening is, when I was getting triggered, it was just kind of like, why are you doing this? Or you have a problem with this, and I don't understand why, like, I'm not doing anything wrong. And there was a defensiveness, which made me get defensive. And so so what I asked of him is just to approach it from a more gentle, compassionate place, and then I'll be able to respond, in a different way. Or I asked him to help me to see when my behavior is off, or when I'm saying things, like, I just have control issues, or that's just who I am. Like, help me to see those things, because I want to get over this. I don't want to live in the past. Anybody that's been through trauma, we don't want to live in the past, but we're hardwired for it a little bit. And so we need the help of our partners. We need the help of our loved ones to move through these things. Also the help of a coach, healer. That's the work that I do with people. Privately and in my group coaching, Alchemy, we go through these things as well. So I'm really all about doing my own work. Nobody's perfect. I'm here doing the work right along with you. I've come such a long way. I even told him that. I said, if you only would have met me years ago, you'd know I'm such a different person, and able to handle this a lot better, but still there's some pieces that I need to work on, as does he. We all have our things to work through. But I wanted to give you this video because I think a lot of people experience trauma and just think, well, that's just who I am. I just get triggered when people do this, or I just have these issues because I don't feel safe. It's about safety when you've been through trauma. That little child inside of you doesn't feel safe as an adult at times, and that's what makes you get triggered. And when you're in a triggered state, you're just going to react. You're just going to come from almost an animalistic place, rather than from a conscious, like, okay, I see what's going on here, and like to sit and give yourself some space and some time to calm down a little bit. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions about trauma, stress and trauma and how it might be affecting you, I'd love to have you leave those below, and I can share those with you. And also I have my upcoming Alchemy group coaching program, so I'm going to leave some information about that below. Go check it out. It's a great program that will definitely move you through some of the stuff of feeling not like you're not good enough. A lot of what trauma gives to us, people pleasing, not feeling empowered, not having confidence. You're going to break through all that stuff. So I'd love to share that with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again really soon.